September 1969, Memphis, Tennessee. Lester Elementary School on South Lauderdale Street, third week of the new school year. Room 14, fourth grade. A teacher named Dorothy Mae Simmons is standing at the front of her class with a piece of chalk in her hand, and she has just said something she will spend the next 3 weeks wishing she could take back. She did not say it to be cruel. She said it because she was tired, and because it was a Tuesday, and because the chalk had broken twice already that morning, and because 22, 9, and 10-year-olds had been asking her the same question in variations for the past 40 minutes, and she had run out of careful answers. The question, in its various forms, was this: could they write a letter to Elvis Presley and invite him to their school? The answer Dorothy Mae Simmons gave on a Tuesday morning in September with a broken piece of chalk in her hand was, Elvis Presley does not visit schools like this one. She meant it practically. She meant it as a statement about logistics and probability and the way the world was organized, not as a judgment on the children or the school or the neighborhood. Lester Elementary was a public school in South Memphis, a predominantly black school in a neighborhood that did not have the resources of the schools on the other side of the city. And Dorothy Mae Simmons had been teaching fourth grade there for 11 years and loved it with the specific love of a person who has chosen a hard thing and keeps choosing it every morning. And she had not meant what she said as a condemnation of anything. But 22, 9, and 10-year-olds heard what she said and understood it the way children understand things, completely, without the qualifications the adult intended, with the specific clarity of people who have not yet learned to hear the softening beneath the plain words. They heard, "He would not come here." The child who had started the question was a girl named Anita Burgess, 9 years old, who sat in the second row and who had, that morning, brought a handmade card to school, construction paper, crayon, careful lettering, addressed to Elvis Presley, and asking him please to visit their class because they were learning about music, and he was the best musician she knew of, and also she had seen him on television, and he seemed kind. She had showed the card to Dorothy Mae before class started and asked if they could all sign it and send it, and Dorothy Mae had said she would think about it, and then the class had started, and the question had come up again and again, and the chalk had broken twice, and Dorothy Mae had said what she said. Anita Burgess put the construction paper card in her desk. She did not take it out again that day. Dorothy Mae Simmons drove home that afternoon and thought about what she had said for the entire drive. She thought about it while she made dinner. She thought about it after dinner, sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold while she thought. She was not by nature a woman who left things unaddressed. She had been teaching fourth grade for 11 years, and she understood, at a level that had become cellular, what it meant to tell a child that the things they reach for were not available to them. She had spent 11 years fighting that particular gravity. She had said the things she spent 11 years fighting. She got up from the kitchen table and she found a piece of paper and she sat down and she wrote a letter. She addressed it to Elvis Presley, care of his management, at an address she looked up in the Memphis phone directory, not his home address, but the address of the management office on Union Avenue that she had seen listed in a newspaper article some months earlier. She did not know if the letter would arrive. She did not know if it would be read. She wrote it anyway, because she had said a thing to 22 children that needed to be addressed, and writing the letter was the only address available to her. She wrote about Anita Burgess in the construction paper card. She wrote about the question that had been asked in variations for 40 minutes. She wrote about what she had said and why she had said it in the drive home and the cold coffee. She wrote, "I told my students that you would not visit a school like ours. I do not know if that is true or not. What I know is that I should not have said it, and that 22 children heard it, and that some of them believed it, and that the ones who believed it deserve better than what I gave them on a Tuesday morning in September." She wrote, "I am not writing to ask you to prove me wrong. I am writing because a 9-year-old girl made you a card in crayon, and I owe her more than what I gave her. I am enclosing the card. She folded Anita's construction paper card and put it in the envelope with the letter. She sealed the envelope. She put a stamp on it. She mailed it the next morning on her way to school. She did not tell her students she had written the letter. She did not tell Anita. She went back to room 14 and she taught 4th grade, and she did not mention Elvis Presley for 3 weeks. Where are you watching from? Drop your state in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. Elvis Presley received a great deal of mail. The volume of it in 1969 was such that a full-time staff handled the sorting and responding, a process that had been in place for years and that managed the correspondence with the efficiency of an operation that had long since accepted that the mail was not a manageable thing, but was a thing that could be organized into categories and addressed by category, which was not the same as reading it, but was the best available approximation. The letter from Dorothy Mae Simmons did not go through the staff. It went, by a path that cannot be fully reconstructed, directly to Elvis. Some accounts suggest it was because the construction paper card fell out of the envelope during sorting and someone brought the whole thing to Elvis's attention. Some suggest it was because the Union Avenue Management Office forwarded it directly. What is certain is that Elvis read it. He read it in the way that he apparently read certain things. Not quickly, not skimming, but fully, the letter and the card, the whole of it. The people who were with him when he read it said he was quiet for a while afterward. He sat with the construction paper card in his hand, the crayon lettering, the careful construction paper, Anita Burgess's 9-year-old handwriting asking, "Please," and he was quiet. Then he asked someone to find out where Lester Elementary was. He did not call the school. He did not write back. He did not send a representative to arrange anything or make any preliminary contact of any kind. He found out where the school was. He found out what time 4th grade started in the morning, and he made a note of the date 3 weeks out, which was the first date in his schedule that Memphis was available. He did not tell the school he was coming. October 14th, 1969, room 14, Lester Elementary School on South Lauderdale Street, 8:45 in the morning. Dorothy Mae Simmons is at the front of the class with a piece of chalk, unbroken this particular Tuesday, writing a vocabulary word on the board. 22 children are copying it into their notebooks. The classroom door is in the back wall, behind the students, so that what happened next was visible to Dorothy Mae before it was visible to anyone else. The door opened. A man came in. He was wearing a dark jacket and dark trousers, and he was carrying in one hand a construction paper card that Dorothy Mae Simmons recognized immediately. The crayon lettering, the careful borders, the specific card that she had folded into an envelope 3 weeks earlier and mailed to an address on Union Avenue without knowing if it would arrive or be read or matter at all. He was carrying it like a document, like something that had been given to him and that he had brought back to where it came from. Dorothy Mae Simmons stopped writing on the board. Elvis Presley stood at the back of room 14 and looked at 22 4th graders who were in the process of turning around in their seats, and he said, in the plain conversational tone of someone who has stopped by rather than arrived, "I got a card. Is Anita here?" 22 children turned around. What happened in the next 2 hours in room 14 of Lester Elementary School on South Lauderdale Street in Memphis, Tennessee, on the 14th of October, 1969, was not in any newspaper the next day. It was not on any television broadcast. There were no photographers present, no reporters, no management representatives, no advance team, no documentation of any kind beyond what the people in the room carried in their memories. Elvis sat in the reading circle with 22 4th graders, and he talked to them about music. Not performed talking, actual talking, the back and forth of a person who is genuinely interested in what the people he is talking to think, which in this case were 9 and 10-year-olds who had opinions about music that were specific and considered, and which Elvis received with the full attention that made the people he gave it to feel, for the duration, like the most interesting people in the room. He asked them what songs they liked. He asked them why. He asked Anita Burgess what her favorite song was, and she said, "Love Me Tender." And he asked her why, and she said because it was the kind of song you could feel all the way through. And Elvis was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "That was exactly right." He sang. Not a performance. He had no microphone, no band, no stage. He sat in the reading circle and sang 3 songs for 22 children and 1 teacher in a 4th grade classroom on South Lauderdale Street. And what the room sounded like during those 3 songs was something that the people who were in it tried to describe for the rest of their lives with varying degrees of success. Dorothy Mae Simmons would say, years later, that it sounded like what music is supposed to sound like when nothing is between it and the people listening. He stayed for 2 hours. Before he left, he asked Dorothy Mae if he could write something on the board. She said yes. He picked up the chalk, the unbroken piece, and he wrote on the blackboard in his own handwriting above the vocabulary word that was still there from the morning. Don't ever let anyone tell you what is not possible, including teachers, including me. He put the chalk down. He shook Dorothy Mae Simmons' hand. He said, "Thank you for writing that letter." She said, "I wrote it because I was wrong." He said, "Most people who are wrong don't write letters about it. The ones who do are the reason things get better." He walked out of room 14. The door closed behind him. Dorothy Mae Simmons stood at the front of the classroom with 22 9- and 10-year-olds who were looking at the blackboard and at the door and at her, and she did not say anything for a moment because there was nothing to say that would be adequate, and she had learned in 11 years of 4th grade that silence is sometimes the right response to something large. Then she picked up the chalk and she wrote the next vocabulary word. Anita Burgess kept the construction paper card. Elvis had brought it back. He had taken it from the envelope it arrived in, and he had brought it personally to the classroom on South Lauderdale Street, and he had held it up when he came through the door and said, "Is Anita here?" And Anita had said yes, and he had given it back to her. She had it for the rest of her life. She became a music teacher. She taught at a high school in Memphis for 32 years. She had the card in a frame on her desk in every classroom she taught in. And when students asked about it, she told the story. And when she told the story, she always started at the same place. Not with Elvis walking through the door, but with Dorothy Mae Simmons standing at the front of the room on a Tuesday morning in September with a broken piece of chalk saying what she said. Because the story does not make sense without that part. Because the whole thing began with a mistake and a letter written at a kitchen table over a cup of coffee that went cold. Dorothy Mae Simmons taught 4th grade at Leicester Elementary until 1984. She was 63 years old when she retired. In her final year of teaching, she received a letter from a woman she did not immediately recognize, who had been in room 14 in the 4th grade in 1969, and who wrote to say that the sentence Elvis had written on the blackboard, "Don't let anyone tell you what is not possible, including teachers, including me," was still in her. She wrote, "I have been carrying those words for 15 years, and I have used them more times than I can count. I wanted you to know that the thing you wrote in that letter, the thing you were sorry for, turned into the best day I ever had at school." Dorothy Mae wrote back. She said, "I am glad the letter arrived. It had. It had arrived exactly where it was supposed to go, and it had come back in the form of a man walking through a classroom door on an October morning with a construction paper card and a question, 'Is Anita here?' And 2 hours and 3 songs and a sentence on a blackboard above a vocabulary word, all of it growing from a mistake made on a Tuesday and a cup of coffee gone cold, and a woman who sat down at her kitchen table and wrote the only letter available to her. That is the whole of it. A wrong thing said, a letter written about it, a card enclosed, and 3 weeks later, a door opening at the back of a classroom while 22 children copied a vocabulary word into their notebooks, and a voice saying, 'I got a card. Is Anita here?' If this story reached something in you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that admitting a mistake is where the best things sometimes begin. Subscribe for more stories about who these people were in the moments that didn't get written down. And tell us in the comments, has a teacher ever said something to you, right or wrong, that you have carried for years? Those are the moments that shape us. Leave yours below. There is a sentence Elvis Presley wrote on a blackboard in a fourth-grade classroom in Memphis in October 1969 that was erased before the end of the school day. Erased because blackboards get erased, because the school day continues and the vocabulary words needed the space, because that is what happens to things written in chalk. Dorothy Mae Simmons did not erase it herself. She asked the morning's helper, a boy named Marcus who took the job seriously, to leave that part of the board until last. He did. The sentence stayed through 2 more lessons in the lunch break in the afternoon, and when Marcus finally erased it at 3 o'clock because that was the rule, Dorothy Mae watched him do it. She had already written it down. She kept it on a note card in her desk drawer for the rest of her teaching career. 15 years of 4th grade, the note card in the drawer, the sentence on it in her own handwriting. Don't ever let anyone tell you what is not possible, including teachers, including me. She did not display it. She did not quote it in class or reference it to students or make it into a lesson. She kept it in the drawer the way you keep a thing that is for you specifically, a reminder addressed to the person who needed it, which was her. She needed it, not every day, but enough days in 15 years that the note card had been taken out and read and put back many times, and the fold lines in it were soft from the handling, and the ink of her own handwriting had faded slightly the way ink fades when paper is touched repeatedly by human hands. She retired in 1984. The note card went home with her. It is in a box somewhere, in a house in Memphis, in the keeping of someone who knows where it is and what it says and why it matters. The blackboard itself was replaced in 1977 when Lester Elementary renovated its classrooms. The new board was a different material, green rather than black, a different surface. The room is the same room. The door is the same door. The second row, where Anita Burgess sat, is the same second row. Nothing marks it as room 14 of particular significance. There is no plaque, no indication, just a classroom in a school in South Memphis, where a man came through the door one October morning because a teacher had been wrong and had written a letter about it, and the letter had arrived, and the man had come. The door still opens. The room is still there. 4th grade still happens in it every year, with new children who do not know what happened in their room in October 1969. Because why would they? The room does not tell them. The room is just a room. It is enough that it happened. It is enough that Anita Burgess has the construction paper card in a frame on her desk in a high school music classroom in Memphis, and that the students who ask about it hear the story, and that the story contains at its center the thing that every child in every 4th grade classroom in every school that has ever been told the thing they reach for is not available to them needs to hear. Someone came through the door. They came because a letter arrived. The letter arrived because a woman at a kitchen table decided that a mistake deserved more than silence. That is the sequence. That is how it works. That is why it matters that Dorothy Mae Simmons drove home on a Tuesday in September and sat with a cup of coffee that went cold and picked up a piece of paper and wrote what she wrote. The door opened 3 weeks later. It always opens when the letter is sent.